Your news headlines. Once again, Mardi Gras revelry disturbed by violence. Joe Raleigh is live in the French Quarter with more. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, John. Well, while there was no violence here in the quarter on Mardi Gras Day itself, of course, a shooting disrupted the relatively calm cleanup process, though. What we're told by police is that shortly after midnight, about 12:30 this morning, somebody fired shots into a crowd of people right on Bourbon Street, right off of Canal Street. Actually, our own ABC 26 crew was packing up after their long Mardi Gras day when they saw a stampede of people running away from the shooting scene. Police seem to be collecting a pile of clothes off the street afterwards. There's no word on if that belonged to the victim or a possible suspect. They tell us that the victim is a 21-year-old man. He was shot in the back. Paramedics took him to the hospital, and he is listed in stable condition this morning. There is no suspect listed and no motive for the shooting right now, but police are looking at surveillance video from nearby businesses so that they can hopefully identify the shooter. Of course, they want to encourage anyone who may have seen or heard anything, call Crime Stoppers. That number is 822-1111. Remember, you do not have to give your name, and you may be eligible for a cash reward. John?
Thanks, Joe. And those weren't the only shootings overnight. 3 more, in fact. One in the 900 block of Tonti Street in Mid-City, one in the 2600 block of Josephine in Central City, and another at Canal and Galvez in Mid-City. A violent night in the city. 2 teens are behind bars this morning after a shooting incident in the Garden District. The shots broke out just before 2 p.m. yesterday at the corner of St. Charles and 2nd Street. Bullets hit 7 parade spectators, including grazing a 20-month-old baby's back. Witnesses say they can't believe it happened on Mardi Gras.
Unfortunate, and I guess it points to the fact that some individuals are so brazen it doesn't matter. That even our physical presence is not necessarily a deterrent all the time.
We were just actually talking about how good this Mardi Gras has been. No violence, nobody getting hurt, fight, shots, and all of a sudden this happened. You know, this is why people don't want to come to New Orleans. It's sad.
18-year-old Louis Lazone and 19-year-old Mark Brooks have been booked with 7 counts of attempted first-degree murder. Well, midnight meant the end of Mardi Gras, sadly, but our Joe Raleigh was there. We're going to go back to him on Bourbon Street. He watched as police shut down the street. Joe?
That's right, John. And, of course, the noise that you hear behind me is the cleaning crews are finally here on Bourbon Street. They started just a few minutes ago. Now, of course, tourism officials here in the... That was the beginning of shutting down Bourbon Street. Law enforcement officials began their annual walk down Bourbon Street after that noise. New Orleans Police Chief Warren Riley and State Police Colonel Mike Edmondson led the way. The officers, troopers, and deputies all gently encouraged Bourbon Street partiers to head home. The whole experience was actually pretty interesting. You see there, I actually got to walk with the state troopers. They got mostly applause and a few boos as they walked. They even let me walk with them. It was really neat. You could almost call this the last parade of Carnival 2009. And actually that would make royalty for this crew of cleanup. Sidney Torres, of course. He followed behind law enforcement, riding one of his SDT waste disposal trucks, getting a lot of applause, just like Rex himself. Of course, the whole walk down Bourbon is mostly a symbolic gesture now these days, since most of the bars do not close at midnight, and there are plenty of places to continue partying. One trooper actually told me it's really just a way to thin the crowd a little bit. In fact, if you look at Bourbon Street now, it is still very dirty. The street was full of people until about 4 o'clock this morning, and just about 10 or 15 minutes ago, the trucks finally started rolling through, spraying the deodorizing. There's a very pleasant lemon scent in the air now, and they are really beginning to pick up the trash here by the boatload almost. So we're finally getting back to normal here on Bourbon Street, back to clean on Bourbon Street. We're looking forward to next year at this point, John.
Thanks, Joan. I bet you there's still some stragglers out there in the bars as well. Well, Republicans chose Governor Bobby Jindal to respond to the president's speech last night. Once again, Governor Jindal says too much wasteful spending in the stimulus bill will cost all Americans down the road with a bigger debt and higher taxes. He says the real solution lies with individual Americans, not the government.
That's why Republicans put forward plans to create jobs by lowering income tax rates for working families, cutting taxes for small businesses, strengthening incentives for businesses to invest in new equipment and to hire new workers, and stabilizing home values by creating a new tax credit for home buyers. These plans would cost less and create more jobs.
No doubt Governor Jindal's speech will fuel speculation about the presidential aspirations as Republicans consider him a rising star. Senator Mary Landrieu didn't waste any time responding to Jindal's response. She says the idea of private individuals going it alone against a recession would lead to disaster.
In the days of thinking that the private sector only can move this government forward, those are the failed policies of the past. Unfettered private markets, over-reliance on the private sector is what got us in large measure, in the trouble that we're in.
Landrieu also said that the president's push to develop alternative fuels will help create more jobs in the private sector. Those are